I suppose, Cathy, I'll jump right into it. You're coming from Monaghan, which is where Danica is from. I would imagine her passing. I mean, I know it happened during post production, but I would imagine like going around promoting this film has it cast a pall over it. I mean, what's your kind of how is that like?
Well, last night was our launch, so
Yeah,
it was the first opportunity to share the film with her nearest and dearest.
right.
And it felt very fitting to be back in Clonus. Clonus, we said last night that we even felt that even though it was our first time in Clonus, we felt like we'd been there before because Nick
Yeah,
had spoke so much about it and the warmth of how the film was received and the love for it. McGuigan family was really powerful, and I think it's spurred us on because I think this journey of promoting the film without Nika feels very surreal, and it's a roller coaster. It's everything, it's celebratory, it's painful, it's heartbreaking, and yet there's this part of us that like we want to stand by the film. We want to do the best we can, but it's just not straightforward and it's not easy.
yeah. Like what I really enjoyed about the film was that I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but like what I found really fascinating, and this is a question for you, Nora, or Nora Jane rather, was in how by the end of at the start of the film they're so clearly distinct. The two personalities are so clearly distinct, but by the end of the film, like even your haircut looks the same and you're starting to dress the same. Um, was that? I mean, was that mirrored in the production, or was that just a choice that the two of made, that everyone made, or how did it go?
Yeah, I think that was something we found in finding the story.
Yeah,
It was always because they're going through a shared psychosis. We always wanted them to sort of merge into each other,
yeah,
um, and having that such an intense, intimate, sort of codependent bond, and how
yeah,
you can get so completely lost in somebody, and they had to be on that final journey completely together. You had to believe that there were it was both of them in it, and they both needed this resolution as much as the other. Um, so yeah, that was a choice, and then all the other decisions kind of just formed around that.
But I think the interesting thing, Brian, is like when we started this film, we started with the casting first. We didn't start with here's an idea, here's the plot. We really found it together. It was workshop together. So in a way, physicality was our way to because we didn't have script. We were
yeah,
working with the girls' energy and dynamic, and so physically, like we wanted them to be able to talk similar, walk similar, and I think
That
that's
was a
why
funny day in the
but I
workshop
think
hall.
that's why, the physicality of how they look like sisters, like, it didn't happen by fluke.
no,
Um, Norgine and Nika really worked very hard to make that merger happen and so seamlessly. Um, and I think emotionally, that was work as well, because how do you let your guard down with someone so much that that you can be as vulnerable and like sibling like, and that doesn't often happen normally on films. An actor will arrive maybe 6 weeks beforehand if you're
yeah, of
lucky,
course,
maybe
yeah,
2 weeks before you go to
Mm.
shoot, and you might get a mini rehearsal. They had 5 years of getting to know each other and pushing each other, and
mm,
I think that's why they were part of everything and part of the costume. Like, what are you going to wear? And it was a very open dialogue.
Yeah, there was a discussion about everything, which was amazing for us, to be able to put our kind of stamp on it.
yeah,
Because often what happens is you'll have a costume designer who'll come in, they'll speak with the
Yeah,
director, then you'll come in, you'll get your costume fittings.
yeah, yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was kind of going, what do you think she wears? And the conversation started with the actors first and then continued with the costume designer.
yeah. Because it was the thing of like I noticed like, you know, Nika's character was wearing obviously the thing of the mother, like she was taking on the red coat, and then Nora Jane, you had your blue coat, and then by the end of the film, you're both wearing blood red. Like, but that scene, like, it's funny there. You mentioned the whole thing of like the idea of merging, and like that scene where they're dancing to Gloria, like where it's so physical, and they're like literally like bashing their heads off each. Well, not they're not bashing their heads, but like they're pulling at each other. Like, um, it felt like that was like the scene where they finally collapsed over. What was that like filming?
It was electric.
Yeah.
we had done that in one of our very first workshops. I found that almost identical to that dance scene, and just sort of had some amazing choreographers come in just to polish it and kind of not even polish so much, but just kind of shape it a little bit. Yeah. But it was pretty much exactly what we'd done when we were first coming together to figure out who these people were. And so to be back doing it again on set with everything else we'd found. And it was so, and it's so raw and there's so much adrenaline. And I think that's when it felt like we're really rolling,
Yeah. Cathy, did you always have Gloria as the song, or did you have something else, or what?
No, it was fascinating because when we were in the first ever workshop, because we didn't have script, I played Patti Smith's song "Horses," and the reason I used that track was because it's a very primal 9-minute long track, and I said to the girls, you need to match the energy of this song, and so it really unlocked something quite wild, and it wasn't quite dancing. It was more like this interesting, almost animalistic challenge. And I think we had maybe another idea for a song later in the film, and we were doing our rehearsals, and Marty McCann came in, and we were doing some backstory workshops, and I said to Marty, okay, what would happen, what would be Lauren and Sean's wedding song? And he was like, what one? And I was like, the one that gets the party started. And he's like, well, it has to be Van the Man, Gloria. And what was powerful about that is because in our backstory that we had developed, we knew that the mother was a massive fan of Van Morrison. So I was like, that really works. And so I put it on Spotify, and this is in the rehearsal room. And the room was just like, whoa, shit, this is the song we need to use. This is it. This is incredible. Now, how the hell do we get it?
Yeah.
And that in itself is a whole nother journey.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing I was going to say, was like the soundtrack was really, really strong. And like I said, that scene, it felt like almost like a midpoint in the film. Like it's, they've separated now, they've come together. You mentioned there you had a choreographer. I mean, I know the film was like you said, you didn't have a script and it was improvised or whatever.
Oh, no, that's not true.
Sorry, no.
So it was workshopped, and then it was from workshop. Then we had a script. There was no improvisation on set.
Yeah.
I think it has a feel like it's improvisation because performances are so raw and nuanced, but everything was scripted when it came to set.
That was going to be what I was going to feed into my question was, looking back on it now, and this is a question for both of you, is would you do it this way again? Would you, spend this long, workshop it this much? Because I know for some directors, they want a schedule. They just want the schedule and shoot to what they've got. And for actors as well, they just want to come in and be told what they've got to do. And there's a sort of an efficiency in it. I'm just wondering, for both of you, would you go through this again, or is it what's your thought? What's your read on it?
This film wouldn't be this film without that really long, complicated journey. I honestly feel like we had this massive big lump of clay that we were chiseling, really refining, and that took a lot of wrong turns as well as finding the right turns. And I think we might never get that opportunity to work like that again, because it was such a gift, and to be surrounded by financiers and producers, especially, who trusted that process. It was very taxing in terms of energy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was intense, and it was a roller coaster, but we grew so much from it. And myself and Nika's bond in the film, and bond as actors, and the trust we had and the intimacy we had, it wouldn't have been the same if we hadn't gone through all of that together. And for me, it's an experience of a lifetime, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
I think the real tragedy is that we have a shorthand now.
Yeah.
We don't get to make that leap to the next film as the three of us again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, I think to work in this way, not everyone is able, not every actor is able, not every director is able and wants to. So I think I've just been very, very lucky to have found people in my life who are like, let's find the story together. And that means being very rigorous with yourself and going, what feels authentic to you? And you have to constantly keep looking in before you can look out.
Yeah. The and this, I guess, kind of leads into the next question is, obviously, like, I mean, if you've worked so hard to develop this bond between the two of you, going into whatever you do next, whether you end up working together or whether you end up working for, different projects, what have you learned from doing it like this? What have you learned from this film?
I think I've learned so much about just my strengths, and also I learned so much from Nika, and there's so much I want to take with me of her going forward. I'm okay.
You all right?
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. You want to keep the person with you and keep the experience with you in your life going forward in all aspects, and that's really it. So
yeah, I think Nika, she really wore her heart on her sleeve.
Yeah.
And I think that takes a lot of courage, and I think you can see that in Kelly, because she bears it all.
Yeah.
And I want to take a little bit of that with me, the courage to speak openly and honestly, and not to bullshit, and I think that's really important when you're making art, because there's, life is short and we're not here for a long time. So sometimes you just got to get to the point.
I was going to say, just cut through the bullshit, and get on with it, like, Yeah, because, I mean, I'm aware of how raw this is, and I swear to God, I am not trying to draw this out of you or anything, but it's just, in watching the film, like, you can really see how vulnerable and how raw she is, and that, like, she's, like, literally, like, her skin has just been pulled back, like, and I mean, and again, I swear I'm not trying to do this to kneel you or whatever, but during production, I mean, do you think, what was the most challenging scene for you? And I mean, was it something specific? Was it just all of it, or was there one scene in particular that stood out to you as being difficult but rewarding, that when you came out the other side of it, you were kind of like, you know what, fuck, I got that scene, I fucking nailed it, like? And this would be from a director's standpoint and an actor's standpoint.
I mean, Manny, there's many scenes in that film that were, you were gonna have to go somewhere very deep and difficult. I think difficult. I think the scene where we first speak at breakfast was hard for both, because there's just so much there. You're carrying so much for these characters, and this is the moment where they face each other for the first time with all of that. So that was a tricky one. And I think rewarding and sort of releasing might have been like that last scene in the car together, where we really got to be so vulnerable with each other and be so you're giving the characters the healing they need, and there's such a sense of kind of relief.
Can you talk about that ending, actually, Cathy? Like, I mean, was that always there?
It was probably about, I remember I had finished Can't Cope One Cup, and that was a hell of a TV series to make. I found it really tough because it was grueling in terms of schedule, and and I remember wanting to come back to Wildfire and write a draft of it, and it was in the middle of winter in Ireland, and I just thought, I just can't write because this material is so heavy as well, and I wanted to do justice. And I remember an opportunity came up to go to India. A friend knew a place, and she
India.
said,
Hang on, did you say India?
Yes. Hear me
Sorry,
out.
fuck. Okay,
And so I remember I knew I had a deadline, for the next draft of the script, and I couldn't figure out what the ending was. And I remember it was probably about 6 weeks in India at this stage, and when you're there, like, pace of life is a little bit different, and I remember just sort of sitting on the balcony, and I could hear the mosquitoes, and it was really, really hot, and I was just thinking, God, I'm so lucky to be here. And I was like, but I so haven't nailed this film. And I remember getting really, fuck, how am I gonna, find it? And I remember just sitting back, and it just came to me in a rush of what happened, the mother, and what was, without giving too much away, like what she would need to do, and what Lauren's secret would be, and what Kelly would not know, and how for full healing to happen for this family, what that truth would be. And I remember when it landed on me, I was I felt the weight and the tragedy of it. And I realized that was the journey. And I kind of feel like in many ways, I needed to be away from Ireland. I need to be in a brighter setting to allow something that heavy in. And I remember just writing it in a rush, and I was like, wow, okay, that's it. But I remember the weight of it, of what had happened, and what her breaking point was. And, then it doesn't take too long to start, those stories come up so much in the news, and without giving too much away. And then you're going, oh God, there's a truth to this. There is a real weight to this. But I always knew that the film should end on a brighter note. And it's funny because people, they get towards the end of the film, and they project their own idea of what should happen or what will happen. But that was never my intention. My intention is there will always be hope on this, because these characters are going to face their darkest fears and truths, but in that way, it actually brings them through to the other side. And that's only where the healing begins. So I knew we would go through something quite dark at the end of the film, but we would come out the other side.
Yeah, it was so important to be sensitive around the the issue of mental health, and because so many people go through it, and it's something we're only kind of really fully understanding, and understanding how to react to and support people, and it was just so important to allow this to be like you said, a hopeful story, and that healing is possible, and that living with difficult things is possible, and it's just the openness and love and support are really, in order to find your way through. So
and that's the difficult thing, because in order to be truthful to that story, we can't half cook it. Like, it has to feel like a dark film in places.
You have to commit to it, like.
Exactly. But if you shy away from it, well, then you're doing an injustice to how complicated life can be sometimes, and how difficult it would be to feel like living through that.
Like, even like it's weird, like the and this is not about the film, but it's about the characters. Like, the messiness of it is so real. Like, even that like simple scene with Nika when she was in the water, and she's like just trying to show the little lad how to hold his breath, and how that can be misconstrued into, oh, you're fucking crazy, and your mother was the same as well. Like, that thing of like it that felt so natural and so honest, and like there was no kind of ill intent in her performance or anything. There was no ill intent of it.
I think just about that, I think it's because we get to see both sides. We get to see these kids who feel out of their depths, literally, and kind of fearful of this adult who isn't behaving properly, and yet we see it through Kelly's eyes, where she's just trying to make connection. And I guess when we zoom back even further, you begin to realize that their mother didn't have the boundaries to look after them. So you get to see how messiness it all is. And I think that's what, Nika was really, and same with Nora-Jane, very protective over her character. Nika knew that Kelly could be perceived as really unlikable and troubled, but Nika was like, she had such integrity to go, no, I understand this character is vulnerable, but I want people to love her. And I think that's a testament to how empathetic Nika was as a person.
The political component of the film, not that there isn't one, that's right. Like, I thought that scene with the two of yous were eating ice cream, and there's that thing, United Ireland Now, right out the back, and one of the driving scenes where it passes like a Sinn Féin poster, and then Nika's character Kelly, when she's running through like the loyalist or the Union Jack and all that sort of thing. I would imagine that's a fine thing to tune. Like, what was your kind of thinking there? Like, what was that like to try kind of balance, obviously a very, very personal, human, emotional story with this wider context? Like,
well, I think for us, first it was always about characters first, but then when you start to explore character and you look at trauma, you can't separate family, society, and politics from it. So it was a very delicate line to walk a lot of the times. But I'm from a border town, so I'm used to like driving past.
Yeah,
it's no big deal, but it's just part of the landscape. And some of those boards that you're talking about are actually exist. We were just putting them up, so it's not like we were planting everything. Yes, there's some moments where we added to it, but it exists and it's part of the DNA of the place. It's part of the fabric of the place. And when we were making this film 5 years ago, Brexit as a word didn't even exist. And as the film was growing and Brexit was looming, like it became more and more apparent that, oh my God, when Kelly crosses the border, is it a hard border or is it a soft border? How does that impact people? Like, communities who are really struggling to move past the troubles, who are still healing, and this talk of a border happening again. And we just realized that it had to be a part of a feature of the film. And I don't think, some people are like, oh, the sisters are a metaphor for the North and the South, and like, they're not, but that's, people can put their own stuff on it. Like, for me, it's character first, and it's about the setting that informs them.
You're inevitably going to be shaped by it, and especially because it deals with trauma. You have to explain a certain amount.
Yeah. And like, there is that thing, and I'll wrap at this, but I mean, there was I was reading a thing that it was something like in Northern Ireland, there's something like, it's either like 8% or 10% of people in Northern Ireland fit the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder, and that it is just something that's just woven into the fabric of Northern Ireland.
Like that was the thing, like, we were looking at statistics, and Northern Ireland has soaring suicide rate. We have incredibly high usages of antidepressants, and we're talking about a generation who haven't firsthand experienced the troubles. We're talking about the generation that came after. So what you begin to realize is that generation doesn't have the coping mechanisms. And so how does that come about? It could be through their own parents going through their own trauma at a very heightened time, that they were just surviving, and but maybe their children are in peace times, but somehow lacking support skills. And I mean, we don't fully know. This is the whole thing about mental health. Like, we don't understand the repercussions. But there was Lyra McKee, who was really starting to put words and language to it. He was taken so young.
Anyways, that was brilliant. That was really good. I swear, I really did enjoy the film, and I hope you don't think I was trying to be fucking draw anything out or be anything like that. It wasn't intentional. It's just she was really a big part of the film, and you could really tell that like she was one part of the whole. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, she really was.
But I mean, it's like, it was an incredible film. Like, and it's that thing of like, it's to see talent cut short. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's How are you about it though?
Like we said, it's the roller coaster, really, to be honest. You just have to try and take whatever positives you can.
You'll come up in our system as missing for the last year.
Do you want us to call anyone? Let them know you're okay.
Kelly's okay. She's at home. She's home.
You said you'd keep in touch. I thought you were dead.
I hear your sister's back.
She came home herself.
Where was she? Where did the police find her? Is she okay?
Lauren!
I'm in the north. I'm in the south.
Your face looks familiar. Are you from around here?
Yeah,
I probably know your mommy. What's her name?
Anna Cassidy.
Oh my god, Anna Cassidy. Was she your mommy? Car crash, wasn't it? Had a wall.
Can I buy you ladies a drink each?
My ma told me what you did. Our dad was one of the 26 your bomb killed.
You don't scare me, mister. What are you gonna do, huh?
This place is hell, she said. With those murderers free, I'll never be at peace.
She's every rule your mother got. She's away with a fairy.
Just shut up!
Oh, Lauren! Lauren!
Am I a weirdo?
You're not a weirdo. It's this fucking town.
Open them now.